I'm convinced your worship sets can be improved by considering these 5 ways of using backing tracks. Here we go. Hey friends, I want to show you 5 ways in which our local church here uses backing tracks and drone pads to enhance our worship. Now this may differ if you've got larger congregations, but we're focusing on small and growing churches. Stick around to the end because we're also going to be looking at what we consider the best software for running backing tracks in a local church setting. It's super easy and best of all, it's free. You can click on this card here to see a video I made earlier about the importance of drone pads and what they can do for your worship. The first way we might utilize drone pads in worship is to fill in where we are missing musicians. It's probably likely in your local church, a small and growing congregation, you might not have access to an infinite supply of musicians. And so from week to week, you might not have different musicians, or maybe it's just you leading on your own. A great example might be you don't have a keys player every single week. And so we'll use drone pads to replace a keys player within a small band. That means that the sound can be fuller and thicker and creates like a really nice, comfortable atmosphere for everyone involved. The second way that we might choose to use backing tracks and drone pads in worship is for our transitions. We'll use drone pads to help our bands and our worship teams transition between songs. Even if you had a keys player and a full band, it's great to have that drone pad as a consistent sound just to link the 2 songs. It takes the pressure off the band and just makes the whole worship set feel more cohesive and comfortable, and people can be worshiping without distraction. The third way that use backing tracks and drone pads in worship is utilizing the software to run Click. Click is really just a metronome that is played through people's ears, and it allows the team to stay in time. We've learned that with different levels of musicians and different experience, sometimes people can go off tempo and that becomes distracting for people. So we'll use that same software that we use for running backing tracks and drones for running Click. And that just makes sure everything is tight and in time and everyone moves forward. Now, this is not easy for everyone. It's taken our team a fair amount of time to get used to it, and people still struggle from time to time. And I want to encourage you is make sure the technology serves you and your team and your church, and that you don't find yourself serving the technology instead. So make sure you get that order right. The fourth way that we use backing track software to help with our worship is we'll run full backing tracks for some songs and choosing the stems, the parts that fit the missing instruments. So a great example of this is where you might have a 3 or 4 person band with drums and acoustic and keys, but you're lacking a bass player and electric guitar player. Or you can use backing tracks to mute all the other channels for the instruments that you do have and just have the electric guitar or bass in place. And so when you want to play those bigger songs, the more energetic songs that need a bit more input for them, then you can use backing tracks to fill in those spots to make sure that you're not overburdening or burning out your musicians, but keeping a sustainable pace for your team. The fifth way that we use backing track software to enhance our worship in a small and growing church is to use it to fill out the band with instrumentation that isn't there. A great example of this is that in a typical band in one of our medium-sized congregations, we'll typically have a drummer, a bass player, a keys player, an acoustic guitar player, but we might not have an electric guitar player, or if we do, we'll only have one. Now we could really fill out the sound by using backing tracks where we mute all of the instruments that we do have, but we can add in a shaker percussion to go along with the drummer. We can add a second or a third electric guitar player, or we can add synth and organ sounds with our keys player. And so we're able to fill out the sound to make a really big expression of worship. Now, this is getting more and more complicated, and it does require that your team are learning to play with in-ear monitors and with a click. But I would encourage you, as you grow, you might want to use backing tracks in this way. So there are 5 ways in which we as a local church use backing track and drone pad software to enhance our worship. If you have used backing tracks in a different way to improve your worship, I'd love to hear from you, so add your comments in the section below. I said at the beginning of this video that I'd share with you the software that we as a local church love using, and that's Prime by Loop Community. We've found it's the easiest, most accessible software for volunteers and musicians to use. This video is not sponsored by Loop Community, but we've found it to be a really helpful platform and company to work with for running click, track, backing tracks in our local church. If you want to know how you can set up and run Prime by Loop Community in your church, click on the link in the video to find out more. We may do a video in the future comparing the various softwares for running backing tracks and pads, so we can do a good pro and con comparison for all of them, so you can make a decision on what's best for you and your local church. Hit subscribe to the channel so you don't miss when that one comes out.